Hello everyone, this is Naidu from Techno Legal Forum. Yesterday we touched upon authorization, which is the second A of AAA framework. AAA stands for authentication, authorization and accounting. Okay. As I mentioned yesterday, once the identity is confirmed through authentication, next stage, that is authorization, will decide what the subject means username, or it can be device, or it can be process, is allowed to do on a resource. And this is done by three mechanisms. First one is access control list. Okay, this is something like the resource on which the subject is going to act or allowed to act. The resource itself has a list of permissions on it. So we'll see in depth. Then comes role based access control. Permissions are good by role. Okay, so in earlier case, the permissions are sitting on the resource itself. Here it's a little different. We are creating a role. For that role we are giving the permissions. That permissions are user is assigned to that permission list. With that list, the user able to access the do what is allowed as per the list on the resource, which we are going to see that. Then the last one is attribute based access control. It is also called rule based or policy based access control. It uses multiple attributes. Okay, so let me do some illustrative diagram. Let's go to the whiteboard. Okay, so user logs in to his corporate network. Inside corporate network we have a file server which has lot of folders. Okay, so multiple users. Who, after doing proper authentication, they have access to this resource. That is, we call this as file server. In that, let's take folder. So this folder has ACL, access control list. So this folder has a linkage to a permission list. So it might have read, modify. Okay, and users are, let's say user 1, user 3. This is, let's say user 3, user 1 are linked to this list. It means that these two users have permissions of read or modify the contents of this folder. So here the folder contains the permissions, the resource contains the permissions. That's why we call this access control list. So here, so n number of users, you have n number of control lists. So if the organization having hundreds and thousands of users, then maintaining these kinds of list will be problematic, so it will not be feasible. Okay, so this won't be used normally in an enterprise kind of an environment. If the numbers of users are limited, this will be able to work, because it's management and managing this list and the users linking to those lists will not be a problem. If it's enterprise, it will not be a good solution. So this is about first one, access control list, which resource itself will have this. Okay, so second one, role based access control, RBAC. So similar fashion, once authenticated, okay, now roles. So role is some kind of designation. Okay, suppose admin, we create some roles. Administrator, auditor, analyst, backup engineer, something like this. So these are the kind of designations or roles. For these roles we provide required permissions. So in administrator we have all rights. Auditor, so he has a limited rights, read only, kind of rights. Analyst, read, write. Then backup, he has the ability to do the backup of folders, so you can read only. Now what happens, I assign, regardless of number of users. Okay, I can just keep assign the to the admin. This user analyst, this user something like this. So once you assign, you will get those permissions which are assigned to these roles. It is like a PM, Prime Minister, CM, Corporator. So there are certain roles and responsibility. Common when getting elected, he gets into those roles, he is able to do that, right? Something like that. So this is much commonly used in enterprise environment, because unlike the previous ACL, you just need to reassign suppose you don't want this person to be admin, you take out from here and assign to some other role which you have created. So you will be able to get that things. So it's much more easy to manage. Okay, this is a role based control. So the last one, before that, let me show you the diagram. The authorization, we will discuss about attribute based access control, but for now we will just see how the actual process works here. So as we already completely dealt with this chapter, authentication, once the authentication identity has been confirmed, the next stage is the authorization. here what the user can do is what decided here. It checks the subject and the resource which he planning to perform some action. So as we discussed, there are three types of enforcements. Means authorization is implemented using either of these or combination of this. Okay, authorization. So here ACL and role based, and then policies are rule based is what it is. So once that is evaluated for that user, the access is provided, and he can perform that action on the protected resource. Okay, now here this diagram makes much easier to understand the ACL. As I mentioned, right, this file is one resource, database is one resource, and configuration, system configuration files, this another resource. So you can see here this resource has a read, and Bob is mapped to that. Read write, again Bob is mapped like that. So here, as we stressed, the permissions are linked to each other. Every file and object carries its own list. So if there are, so the disadvantage, as I mentioned here, right? With thousands of users and millions of files, you end up with ACLs, too many ACLs to manage. It's not be a practical solution. Role-based access control is much commonly used, as you can see here. Admin is a role. This role has these three types of permissions. Alice and Bob, these are the two users who are assigned to this role. Okay, and this role is linked to the database. Okay, so you can do all these operations, nothing but all operations. Similarly, based on the role, based on the permission, users are assigned to that role and they are able to do this functions. So here the difference is permissions are grouped into roles. Unlike ACL, permissions are not sitting on the resource. And users, once you assign those users, inherit those permissions to perform the activity on a respective resources. Okay, moving to the last one. This is more secure and kind of, what you call the latest in a high security environments. This is most commonly used. So understanding this diagram will be making the conceptual understanding much better. So subject attributes. So each subject has certain attributes. What was his role? Which department he belongs? What kind of clearance he has? Means kind of a clearance to access something, right? This is for subject attributes. Similarly, for the resource which you want to access, even it has these attributes. This is where this attribute based access control acts here. So this policy is established. This policy says that if the department is owner, and this is a logical and, right, no, or it's a logical, no, both should be true uh, to get the response. No, both conditions should be true, or means either one condition should be true. We represent by binary and 1 equals 1. Suppose a, okay, I will not go in depth of this, we'll take up a separate chapter. So it's and is nothing but both the conditions should be, or all the conditions should be true, or logical operation means either any of the conditions should be true, so that you can use it in a making decisions. Okay. So here this is what the policy or the attribute ABC set established. See at the very uniqueness. So we are not only talking about the subjects and resources, environment, time. So a user getting access to certain resource is also depends upon the time. Here example 9 AM, but it depends upon the time, what time you should be able to access. It's not 24/7. Okay, so time window is also given. Here you see the location. So all these things becomes a policy. So it is also called as rule based or a policy based access control. When all this entire policy, whatever mentioned here, when all these things are met, because it is also called real time, because you see here real time, it happens. It's not a fixed thing, right? Any day, any time, where you the previous two things which we have discussed, ACL and role based access control, it will provide access as long as the permissions are there. It doesn't care about the time zone, which system you are logging, what time you are logging, okay, or it doesn't care about the attributes of the subject and all. Here it's real time. It's the most dynamic. That's why it's called most dynamic of the what we are discussing now. By evaluating the policy against multiple attributes. So this one, attribute 1 here, 2, and current context, like this is the environment. So these all inputs are verified by this policy engine. If all these are all these conditions are met, then only the user is allowed to access the resource. If it is not meeting, you will be denied. On top of that, a log and alert will be created. So remember, we have discussed about AAA: authentication, authorization. The last one is accounting. Accounting is nothing but this one. Every action is tracked and recorded for security purposes, and also troubleshoot the issues when something breaks. So you need to find out what action caused. So the logs will be the better source to identify. So this completes both authorization and both authentication, authorization of the AAA framework. We'll take up the new chapter, basically the various authentication implementations currently in use, okay, in our next session. Till then, have a good day. See you.